Okay, what was I gonna try and well, about the nervousness thing, one of the things is have a big rock pile. And don't leave any pieces of rock that you buy with the price tag written on them. You know, if there's a price tag on it, like 50 bucks or whatever, knock that off. And then put the thing away and forget about it. Mix it in with your other stuff that's cheap, and so then by the time you pick it up to hit it, you know, you won't choke. Hang on, I want to show you something. Yeah, this is funny. Okay, you there? You are there. This is a piece of Knife River. Knife River. Yeah. Oh, yeah. You know what you do with this? Watch. That's what you do with that. Hang on, let me show you something else. Hold on, I'll be right back. Okay, I'm back. You ever had anybody send you something like that? You know what you do with it? Ooh, look. Pretty rock. Well, I was going to show you some other stuff, but if you're hitting stuff like this, it's on you. You know? You can't do anything with stuff like this. I mean, you could try and heat it for 12 years in a furnace. You ever try to work anything like that? There was a point in all this somewhere. Some rock is pretty and you badly want to get, you know, a great point out of it, and you can't. Now, sometimes you can. I was going to talk about pressure flaking. Somebody was talking about they have problems they are not able to thin, period, I guess, pressure flaking. Here's the deal. I have gotten to the point where I usually never go from direct percussion straight to pressure. What I have done is I have got an interim stage of indirect. And in my case, the reason for it is because I'm usually, if not almost always, using semi-tough, at least, raw stone, and taking ultra fine little direct percussion flakes is tedious. Yes, I could step down to this kind of thing. Yes, I can hold edges together and I can hit carefully and I'll get little thinning flakes, but it's tedious, and if I want to do it right, I would isolate the little platforms and try and make them go better, because when you're still trying to thin, you want to reliably get past the middle of the thing so you're overlapping, and then it's getting thinner faster than it gets narrow. Well, I just skip all that. I go with the indirect. And the indirect, you know, eliminates any need to do the isolation. It eliminates accuracy issues. It just eliminates a lot of issues, and it's way more powerful than pressure. I mean, I can do good with pressure, but I can't do like indirect good with pressure. And you can do different ways. You know, you can space your flakes out and make much wider flakes and get a flatter surface, and then come back in between them if you want, or you can do it narrow and and you get some parallel stuff going. But anyway, I want to talk about pressure flaking. If you create a preform like this, and this is a preform that it may be cleaner than what a lot of first year nappers or something would create, but it's similar in that it's relatively thick. It's thicker by far than it needs to be for a finished point, and it's still kind of wide. And what that means is, in order to thin this, you need to be blasting flakes probably at least like an inch, really, if you're going to start doing it at this width. Now you can come on in some more narrow and then try and start blasting your flakes, but the longer you wait, here's the deal on your phasing of when you start trying to do certain things. If it's at the extreme end of your capability, then you're more likely to have failures. But if you wait too late and you get into crisis mode and your ability doesn't allow you to be aggressive enough yet, then it's too late. So it differs between different people. One of the biggest reasons people have trouble pressure flaking is because they allow the preform to move when they're trying to take the flake. The preform has to be rigid. It can't move. You got that right? It can't move. It has to be rigid. How do you do that? Well, you do it by holding it the right way, because you can't put too much bending force too. I use a big notch pad when I use a notch pad. I do not put huge pressure over the notch on stuff all the time. What I am usually doing is, if I'm notching or if I'm pushing on it, frequently I will take my finger and anvil at the bottom of it. And that can be a bad thing if you're doing it on leather. If you shoot an overshot, it's going to go into your finger. So you might consider making you a little leather thimble for your finger to protect it. I told you to be safe. I have witnesses, bunches of them. But I use this grabby rubber pad. I do not use old tires. I do not use old belts. I use grabbiness to keep it from sliding down as easily. It's easier to hold it on the grabbiness. But then I tend to have at least one or two of my fingers on the back part pushing inward and controlling that, so that when I push heck fire Maynard hard on this edge, it will neither go downward nor, more importantly, listen, you know who you are, it will not roll inward. Now, you're not supposed to be pulling inward anyway unless you're trying to do a short beveling flake. You're supposed to be pushing across it. But regardless of what you're doing, don't let the thing roll, because if it rolls, you just took a short flake. It doesn't matter how hard you push. If you want to take a long flake, you got to make it not roll. Yes, I'm being repetitious for emphasis. Emphasis? Emphasis. It's emphasis. Emphasis is something else. All right. So now we're going to try and take some long flakes. You're like, wow, there's quite a bit of convexity on this sucker. Yeah, I know, I got to try and blast through it. Oops, that's upside down, that won't work. Try and blast through it. I'm tilting this a little bit, locking that into that leg, locking this into this leg, locking this end up in my rib cage, getting that on my forearm so it can bow a little bit and load up like a not like a long bow, like a crossbow. And now here's how I'm holding this thing. I've got it squeezed down with that finger tight so it can't hopefully rotate inward. Pointing this towards the back edge, levering in, levering in. Okay, you ready? Yeah, neither am I, that failed. Okay, held it tight. Let me try and do a couple more. This is a messed up area right here. All right, let's try and really skip over here and do something with this one. Okay, now, in spite of the convexity here, I got shadows. That flake ran to there and lowered things a bunch. And I'm skipping spaces a little bit. So I'm going to skip this ridge and come over to the next ridge. Well, doesn't matter. I'll push on this ridge. Okay, here's what I want you to understand. That flake ran to there, and it's this wide, and it's unheated. It's unheated rock, and it lowered quite a bit. And your question is, well, why? Well, what I did was I bridged very hard. I've got this thing locked in. I've got this thing pointed backward. Now, there's no way to cheat that. If you don't let this roll, then you've got to actually push through all that rock to the other side for it to go. It won't even go until that load is that high. And so then when it does go, it really goes. Now, I'm constantly checking the edge to make sure when you push that hard, you've got to have a strong platform. So if it's rolled a tiny bit from the previous flakes or anything, you want to get that up where that's gone, and then you can go back and put your counter bevel on it and cross grind on it at the angle, at the right angle to push on. Make sense? This one is still wrong. It still is a little bit coming up like this and a little bit low. I'm going to skip it. I'm going to push on that one, which isn't perfect, but it's okay. But I got to get this stuff to where it doesn't go early. Can you see how much this is lowered? Like 3 flakes lowered it compared to this. I have no idea what you're seeing. That's the great thing about being out in the sun. And yes, I do know that the video should be closer. I'm lazy. It's either do it my way or not do it, so I will do better later, but it's been cold here. Okay, so now, but I still got a bunch of thickness in here, so I got to get crazy with it. I'm really going to load up on this one. I just bent the heck out of this. That's how much I'm loading up, okay? Let me see if I can fix it. I'm so funny. I crack me so up. Years ago, I had this girlfriend from Europe. She said stuff like that. What was I doing? Oh, you ready? Coming on in. Ah. Well, anyway, hopefully you can see that these are very low. Now, okay, so forget all that. Don't forget it, but there's no point in me sitting here making a whole point just to teach a concept. I want to tell you something else, though. Progressively, I have more and more. That's all the lowered spot. This is still high. I have more and more gone to flaking on leather. Obviously, the old boys didn't have rubber notch pads, But you're like, well, why do you flake on leather? Well, leather, it's about support. Flaking on leather does interesting things. It can allow you to translate force from outward force to a cross force, just like on the percussion stuff on your leg and in your hand with support underneath. It can also, but here's the important part, it can allow you to roll flakes all the way across point faces, even if they have a whole bunch of convexity. You no longer have to concern yourself with figuring out how to reliably cut through mountains. You can roll across the top of mountains. Now, it doesn't necessarily eliminate the convexity, but it can contribute to substantial thinning. The thing you have to watch about it is you need to push hard enough and get good enough at support to where you don't let the thing roll, even though it's harder to control in leather. And the other thing is, you have to get good enough at pushing correctly across it hard enough to where you're not pushing too hard in the leather, but you are pushing real hard on the flake, and even if the flake blows up, it'll go, that it goes more than halfway, because when you flake on leather, you tend to get fingernail hinge terminations. Now, if you like the look of that, then it's not an issue, because they're usually fingernailed. I mean, they're not thick or anything, and they're kind of cool, and they're present on a whole lot of old points. But if you push it more than halfway across, your next set can, a lot of old points, they have strong set and they have weak sets, and the strong set runs much further. So you can do that. I'm slipping. And I'm still bent. It's really different. You know, a guy when I started napping said, well, you know, you're smart. You can make up for lack of muscle with technique and stuff. And I'm like, yeah, right. Hinged out on me, dang it. Hold on, this one's gonna go. That ran over to there. This one's going. Yeah, that's what I wanted. See, that pushed that one over there. Actually, I pushed that one to there and there because it split. Don't ask me why. But it lowered a lot too. It's kind of you know, I'm not an expert at doing this. I'm not great at doing this yet. I've been doing it some and it's getting better, but see, this is what it does a lot. This is interesting. The flake breaks, but because the leather holds it together, the ends are still butted together. And because of that, they keep pushing. So the flake broke. You can see it kind of broke up right there, and it's broken right here too, but it kept pushing all the way to there. All you gotta do is pick this stuff off. So even though the flake blew up, look, now it's gone. You got a fairly nice termination, and you got a flake that went a long ways and lowered it quite a bit. Go me, or whatever. I don't like the way this platform is because that's low right there. And this is square, so I got to raise it. You know, everybody thinks the small work somehow, the fine work is somehow not complex. Well, no, it's the same physics at that scale as it is at the larger stuff. So it's like notching. Notching is complicated. Notice I didn't say difficult, I said complicated. Once you understand it, it's not that big a deal. Okay, so anyway. Notice I'm not really hitting into hard with this. I'm using this instead of a flaker. All I'm doing is just, a lot of people get these all chattered up on the bottom side with little hinges and stuff. They're pushing in too hard when they do that, and since it's a weak platform, it fails, it kicks up and get micro hinges all along there. So I just catch it barely out there with a thick abrader, and then if I'm gonna go this way next, I've created that roll by doing that, so now I gotta go back the other way with it, gently, which raises it up a little bit, and then at some point get it, you know, like I want it with a finer abrader. What else was I going to tell you about pressure flaking? There's some interesting things that happen with certain techniques of pressure flaking. I think I've mentioned this before. I don't have a good bit on. I didn't think I was going to do this. One thing you can do is take like a screwdriver type bit and push in hard on the edge and then tick it over to the left and make it roll. And you can get some pretty good flakes doing that. I'm not getting very good flakes doing it right now because I didn't set everything up right, but you can do those whatchamacallits, ribbon flaking, Angostura type stuff and stuff with that sort of technique. But the other thing you can do for that, and the best demonstration of that I've seen online, if you go look at Jason Newman's channel, he made an Angostura and he's got that video up there, and he does it with a hand flaker. Where's a hand flaker? Here's a hand flaker. This is too sharp, but he does it with a hand flaker, and he's actually, I don't want to put words in his mouth, you can go watch him, but there's a roll to it. You kind of grab the back and crunch and roll, and the roll, in my interpretation of what's occurring, I think that if you roll the point as you're pushing it, or if you twist it, which I do occasionally on real small work, fine work, to make the flake release, it makes the flake start to release at the side that you're rolling into first, and it kind of cants it a little bit, and just it makes it run. That flake ran to there, and I'm doing it with a hand flaker. The previous flake ran to there. So it's an effective technique. It's just a little bit more complex and a little more difficult to master. And of course, and if you start getting, you know, ahead of yourself here, you need to straighten up your ridge. So I come in and take a little short flake right there, another little short flake backward this way to try and straighten my ridge up some. And Jason mentions that in his video too. But you can see I'm pushing these more than halfway. And when you're a 98-pound weakling like me and you're doing that with a hand flaker, you know, at some point, people start buying you drinks. And then you choke and do a short one, and then they take the drinks back away and drink them themselves. Life. That's all I have today, y'all. Bye for now. Freeze crack.